Hello, boys and girls. It's Mrs. Crater. Today we're going to read The Joy of a Ship. Before we get started, the genre is nonfiction. Remember, nonfiction is informational text, so it's going to give us facts. Our essential question for this week: how do things get built? And the purpose of the story is to read about building a ship. But before we read the story, I want to go over some of our phonics. And so this week we're working on the oi sound, and it can be spelled O-Y or O-I. Remember, the O-Y, it usually happens at the end of a word or the end of a syllable, and O-I happens at the beginning or the middle. The letters OY and OI can make the sound you hear in the middle of toys and point. As we read our list, we'll just read straight down: oil, boy, moist, a noise. Joined, hoist, employ, noise. Boiling, enjoy, choice, destroy. And our sentences here: let's avoid annoying this boy. He does not enjoy the noise. Your turn. These are the words that we're going to see in our story today. We'll just read across horizontally. Joy, employs, hoist, avoid, boils, joins, joints, point, moist. Now we'll get started. The joy of a ship. Ships take people and things all over the world. How does a ship get made? Find out here. I really like the beginning of the story. It's a great topic sentence. What is needed to build a ship? Making ships employs many workers. This task uses lots of tools and parts as well. Let's see how a ship is made, step by step. Don't forget to read our caption here. These people study the plans for the ship. There are many things to do. Frame it. First, workers build a frame. The ship frame can balance on blocks up above the dock. Huge cranes hoist the big parts in place so they do not fall. Workers must avoid being bumped by these big pieces of steel. And our caption: some huge gantry cranes can lift 1,500 tons as high as 230 feet in the air. Pretty massive. Sheets of steel. First, two kinds of metal are melted into steel. It boils. Hot steel flows into flat metal sheets and molds. When steel gets cold, it gets hard. The steel sheets are then ready for making a ship. Stand back. The steel is very hot. A worker joins each steel section by heating the edges called joints. Most workers put on gloves and a helmet to protect their hands and their head. So they put on their gloves and the helmet, and they're joining, or looks like they're kind of like welding those joints together to make sure nothing leaks. Check it, paint it. Workers check all the joints. Then they point out leaks and fix them. If a joint leaks, the inside of the ship will be moist with water. It might even sink. Then the ship is painted. And this job is done. It gleams in the sun. The workers knew it would look nice. People will pay a lot of money to ride on this ship. Out to sea. The people on the dock point with joy as the new ship begins the first trip. Those on the ship wave as it glides toward the open sea. Did you know there are many kinds of ships on the sea? The icebreaker ship. Where might we find this one? Think about that. Aircraft carrier. Cargo ship. I want you to think about what steps in shipbuilding are risky. I'm going to go back and preview some of those steps. So remember, there's the framing, and we talked about how the workers might or try to avoid being bumped by those big pieces of steel. There is the sheets of steel where they're doing the different steel and boiling it and making the molds. There's the checking it and painting it. And so when you're thinking about what steps in shipbuilding are risky, those are the ones that you want to be thinking about. This week in writing, or our comprehension skill, I should say, is cause and effect. And we have went over cause and effect several times in class. And remember that a cause is how or why something happens, and the effect is what happens. So it looks like they took page 204 of your story. They went back and they looked for some text evidence of find what causes hot steel to get hard. And so we see down here it gets hard. And when we read around that area, we can find the cause. When steel gets cold. When we go over to our chart, our cause and effect chart, we see hot steel gets cold, so the steel gets hard. Or it can be said the reverse way. You can always start with your effect. The steel gets hard because hot steel gets cold. There was another cause in the story. A worker wears a helmet and gloves. So the worker's head and hands are safe. Or we can say the effect first. The worker's head and hands are safe because a worker wears helmet and gloves. A joint leaks on a ship. So the ship gets moist with water and it might sink. Again, we can say it the opposite way. The ship gets moist with water and it might sink because the joint leaks on a ship. Let's meet Michael. I always enjoy meeting our little first grade writers. He had a writing prompt. What do you think is the most important step in building a ship, and then why? So we know this is going to be opinion writing. The genre for the writing is opinion because we get to express our feelings here. He supplied the topic. He named the topic, and he first told us the selection or the story that he is giving his opinion about. After reading The Joy of a Ship, I think the most important step in building a ship is building a frame. The ship needs a strong frame to be safe, and so he's going to supply reasons. First, workers study a plan, then they make the frame. Next, workers add steel sheets to the frame. The sheets form the sides of the ship, and we know that he is supporting that from his story, from the text. And then his conclusion here, I think the frame is the most important step because if the frame is not right, the sides might leak. And so he's kind of restating again his opinion and what he's thinking and forming that into his conclusion. This is your turn, and this is your writing prompt. What do you think is the least important step in building a ship, and why? Use text evidence to support your answer. So, as you're thinking about what is the least important step, you might have to watch the video again to refresh your memory about the story, or you actually might know in your head what you want to say. But try to use that text evidence to support your answer. And remember, it is your opinion. Okay, till we see each other, or I should say, till we meet again through this platform, have a great day.